At the malt shop, when Joe patted the resin head of Lucky Duck, a psychic residue of perfect evil shuddered through his hand and up his arm.
This is I Don't Even Own a Television. Ricochet Joe.
1, 2, 3. There are books that are good, there are books that are bad. There's some books so fucking awful you wish you never had read them at all. 'Cause a novel can ruin your life. Hey buddy, I don't even own a television.
I'm begging you to edit in a noise at that.
I might. All right, welcome to I Don't Even Own a Television. It's a podcast about bad books. Careening all over the place, I am J.W. Friedman.
You're the human ping pong ball. You're the human pinball even.
Yep.
And I'm Chris. We finally did a Western collision.
This is not a Western.
Ricochet Joe. Can't be anything but a Western. Record scratch. Can it?
It sounds like a Western, but unfortunately not. What it is, it's a Dean Koontz. I'm reluctant to call it a book. This is...
Extravaganza?
Extravaganza. Novella, perhaps, I guess?
Yeah.
That was part of a program, and we're not going to be able to get around to mentioning the name of the company because it is what it is. So this was a Kindle single, and it's about a 100-page book, but it was part of the Kindle in Motion program, which we'll talk about in detail a little bit more as we progress. But what you need to know about this is it's not actually a Western.
Who's you here? Me or the listener?
Both. But probably the listener. Adjust your expectations accordingly. There's not a lot of gunslinging in here.
Yeehaw. Grab your lasso and listen for the jingle jangle of spurs. No, wait, don't do any of those things because it's not a Western, lamentably.
No, it's the story of a young man. I don't know if it was explicitly designed to be YA, but Koontz was definitely watching a lot of CW when he wrote this. That
was a huge question for me. About 10 pages in, I think I started to question myself, like, is this a comedy? Because it's tonally extremely weird. And then about 10 pages later, I was like, oh, this is maybe not aimed at moi.
Yeah, I mean, Koontz has done a whole series, Odd Thomas, that was a young adult series. They're pretty good for what they are. I think this is actually intended to be a YA novel. It's just not called out specifically anywhere. Yeah. The cover looks kind of violent, and we got something other than we were expecting, I would say. But
for instance, it wasn't a Western.
Yeah, but here's the one thing we did get that we were expecting. Dean Koontz.
Dean MFing Koontz. First off, I do want to hop back. Is YA a slur? No.
No, not at all.
Do we like YA? Sure.
Yeah.
We generally don't do it on the show for obvious reasons. This is kind of an accident, but mostly what it is I don't care. I don't care if it's a children's book. I don't care if it's a limerick scrawled on a truck stop wall. If it's Dean Koontz, it's for this guy.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, we don't do YA because we are OA. We're doing synchronized dance steps right now.
That's right. We are Original Angels, and coincidentally, we've just been canceled.
Oh, there's not going to be a third season? I didn't like where that was going anyway.
I loved it.
Got a little too meta at the end there, I would say. But anyway.
Not meta enough, if you ask Chris, the OA collision.
Either way, let's do the movements. Okay. Somebody sample that and turn that into a beat.
Please do not do that when I'm drinking coffee.
Sorry. But, so this is Koontz writing a very short little piece of work. I'd say it's about 95 pages long. We needed that because, as mentioned before, the past couple months have been crazy for us. We'll probably continue to be crazy for us in real life, as I am now job hunting again.
Yep.
And we needed a chaser.
And crazy for me, due to questions and answers like, hey, how many hands have you bled out of over the last 2 days? I'm at 2. And how many apartments have you flooded in the last 7 days? I'm at 1. So yeah, a short text by the great, the warm bath of Dean Koontz seemed like just what, the doctor ordered. And it was, as you mentioned, brought to our attention because it was supposed to be some kind of multimedia experience. We were promised animations, I believe. We were promised. I can't remember what else.
We'll get into this. I want to reserve a whole section just for talking about this. But the one thing I wanted to say is that I think aside from James Patterson, Dean Koontz is probably my favorite author to talk about on this show.
Yeah.
Because he is goofy and without guile.
Yeah.
And it's pretty rare that there's anything in a Dean Koontz book I get mad at.
Right.
I just have fun reading kind of stupid prose, and it's very enjoyable. Plus, there's always magic dogs, which rules.
Yeah, that extraordinarily rules. I was actually caught off guard by it. I'd been hoping for it, but he held out just long enough that I'd given up hope.
He does.
And then it dropped, and I was like, oh, shit, I didn't think he was going to do Moon River, but bam, there it was. Second encore.
Man, that's a deep Simpsons pull right there. Okay, so what we should do next is explain to the people at home what the plot of this book is. So here is a song.
Nobody knows if you finish or not. You got 60 seconds to give them the plot. Plot in 60 seconds.
Now that the entire world is gamified, it's important that we make sure our summaries are gamified as well. So, Collision, you have 60 seconds to drop some knowledge on these folks at home. Are you ready?
I'm ready to saddle up. I've adjusted my cowboy hat with one finger.
Not a Western.
I've sighted in.
Well, you need to take all that stuff back off and just put on like a loose-fitting plain T-shirt and some baggy jeans.
Oh, I was going to rustle up some little dogies of plot.
Yeah, well, sorry, but are you ready?
Yeah.
Begin.
The titular Joe is regular, extremely regular. Like Cardi B, he's regular-degular. He's not special. He's not a special Joe. He's a regular Joe, not even a general issue Joe. He's like Joe Walsh. He's an ordinary, average guy. Which makes it odd that one afternoon, as he's volunteering in the park as a trash picker-upper, he starts hearing voices and experiencing compulsions that send him in chase of specific people and places. Corvette, bus stop, rats. And this quest leads him to confront a mugger who's about to kick his ass until he's saved by, can you believe it, record scratch, a beautiful girl who's the daughter of the chief of police. Then they have a chapter-long milkshake date. Then his hallucinations start again after they have that milkshake, and he discovers some bad men trying to kill a pool hall owner, which Portia, the nice young lady, fixes again because he can't do shit. Then she tells him she and her father are time-traveling servants of good, trying to kill a time-traveling, shape-shifting, mind-controlling parasite called, the parasite.
Capital B. And you're over.
That infects minds and makes them evil. Eventually, the parasite infects his grandma, so he shoots her dead, then goes back in time to save Portia, which creates another him that lives happily ever after with Portia, while he basically turns into Jack Reacher, hopping onto a Greyhound bus to start his new life as a drifter. The end.
Well, you got it, but not in 60, unfortunately.
Gosh darn it!
I think wonder you got if there a little was too bogged down in the details.
I wonder if there was any. Yeah, I wonder if there was anything I hit a little too hard and spent too much time going over.
I don't know. Maybe it's the fact that Joe is regular.
Well, I just wanted to do justice to the number of times the book told me Joe was regular.
I have it written down. Joe suffers from something that I've come to describe as Goldilocks syntax in writing. When every time it's mentioned, it's like he was not too tall, he was not too short. He ran. He was not a fast runner, but he was not a slow runner.
But couldn't you just put in Joe is the audience insert character. He has no characteristics that you don't have and has all the ones that you think are notable about yourself. moving the hell on.
Yeah, he's definitely intended to be relatable because he has no special powers. Nope. He's not super attractive. He's not ugly either. He
does have but one parent, and his living parent is slightly distant.
Yeah.
So he's minorly tragic backstory-wise in a way that like lots and lots of YA tends to be.
Yeah, but all in all, he's very much a regular Joe.
And where does he live? Is this a bustling burg? Is this an exciting kind of town where everything's happening all the time?
He lives in a town called Little City, Pennsylvania.
God fucking damn it.
Which I hated the name of, and I hated the description of, because it basically sounded like one of those towns that's been restored to look like a fake town from the 1950s when things were quote-unquote a better time, and it was, just... you could go down to the general store and hang around and then go across the street to the malt shop and oh man, I hate towns like that.
Yeah, and
it's a Thomas Kincaid painting.
Yes, and there's a hat hung on it several times because Little City, that doesn't make any sense. Well, little's not a descriptor, friendo. No, the town was founded by Dave Little. The Little Green Giant. I don't remember.
Somebody whose name was Little.
Yeah.
Well, and isn't that clever?
Yeah, it's super duper clever. And also, I'm just going to say it. This whole thing feels like a video game being described to you much more than it feels like a book. This feels more like a video game than the Resident Evil novelization we read a couple of months ago.
It's a good point. I mean, there are a lot of sections where he runs and touches something and has a flash in his mind of like, Corvette, and then he has to run and find the Corvette and touch the Corvette, and then it gives him a flash of the next clue he needs to follow.
Yeah.
And then it all leads to a boss fight, basically.
Yeah, exactly. And so the long, like, slightly overbaked setup about why the Chamber of Commerce is maybe the first YA novel I've read that includes the words Chamber of Commerce, has decided to create this, 50s simulacrum. It makes it feel like we had to explain in the narrative why you go from boring suburb town into 1950s town and then back. You know what I mean? Like, it just felt like narrative scaffolding.
Yeah.
And in general, this book I would subtitle slightly differently than it was subtitled. I would call it Ricochet Joe, Dean Koontz' first draft adventure.
That's a good one.
I'm just saying I think that scaffolding probably could have been a little more skillfully hidden.
It could have. Also, this is kind of a problem with a lot of Dean Koontz, unfortunately, but this book is painfully white. And as a white guy, I feel kind of silly saying that, but I think it needs to be pointed out. The worldview of this book is like I'm going to need to speak to your manager type. I want to talk a second and read a piece here about something that happens early on in the book. This is when he first starts touching things and getting... That sounds weird. He first starts touching things and getting psychic messages and blurting them out loud. And it says, he was well aware that other pedestrians regarded him with surprise and perplexity, although no one called for the police or warned him to back off as he raced here and there with his pointed litter stick.
Yeah.
For one thing, he was a wholesome-looking young man with a winsome smile, which was sort of frozen on his face during this adventure, and for another thing, he kept the nail pointed skyward and clearly did not threaten anyone. No doubt, some people thought he was merely fulfilling a hazing obligation to a junior college fraternity, or that he was stunting for a YouTube audience. Now, I would say if I were to see a young man with a rictus grin that's unmoving, running back and forth, crazily shouting words, wielding a stick with a nail in it, that's when you do consider calling the police.
Precisely. I think there's a word. In the English language with which I am familiar, there is precisely one word that describes someone holding a pointed stick with the point way high in the air.
Yeah, I believe it's actually a crime, and it's called brandishing.
Yes, that is the word. And if I saw a young white guy doing something like that, I would be like, huh, So they finally moved off tiki torches. Interesting.
Yeah, that would scare the hell out of me.
Yeah.
So yeah, that to me just kind of is indicative of both the worldview of Dean Koontz, and the world that we're reading a book in, the world of Little City.
I agree wholeheartedly, but I also want to highlight one other thing about that passage. Could you read the maybe last, I don't know, 3 lines of it or so again?
Ooh, okay. No doubt some people thought he was merely fulfilling a hazing obligation to a junior college fraternity, or that he was stunting for a YouTube audience.
Okay, stop right there.
It actually says stunting.
Yes, the phrase stunting for a YouTube audience caused my James Patterson detector to go off very, very hard.
Yeah, I don't think Dean Koontz knows what stunting is.
I could not agree with you more. I'm not 1,000% convinced he knows what YouTube is beyond the thing he hits on his iPad to look at those great zoo videos.
I was going to say dog videos.
Yeah.
When he types dog videos into Google,
right,
it's the links that he clicks on.
Yeah.
But, he's definitely not stunting, for sure.
But yeah, so if you helped Dean Koontz with this, I mean, if you ghost wrote it, send us an email, because we'd like to talk to you about how good you are at writing about dogs, which is very good.
It's true. The dog parts rule. One more quick thing, too, before we get into Kindle in Motion, which I want to talk about for a little bit. This is a book that has both quantum mechanics and unknowable Lovecraftian horrors that can't be described using human language. And it's like fucking Dean Koontz went to like a rummage sale of speculative fiction tropes and just came back with a box full of bullshit and dumped it on this page. Because these are introduced in the same page.
Yeah.
And it is like, dude, come on. You're a professional author.
I have a slightly different theory about how those pages came to be. And they come and go fairly quickly. And I skipped them because they are, to me, when I read them with my eyes, completely incomprehensible. Nearly as incomprehensible as the last bit of plot, but we'll get to that later. My theory is that Mr. Koontz, napping, caught about 2/3 of John dies at the end.
That's actually right on point.
And made some notes in his kind of drowsy, half asleep, half awake state, and those somehow came to constitute, like, I can't remember, chapter 6 and 7 of this, where Portia makes like Clarissa and explains it all to Joe.
Oh, and boy, exposition dump galore. Whew. But yeah, that's where you get the quantum physics. You get the Lovecraftian creatures.
Does time exist, Jay?
Time exists, but it's not the way we perceive it. You might say time is a flat circle, and then tap a pocket knife against your temple and carve a little man out of a fucking beer can.
Would you like to explain this by means of brandy bottles multiplying and pouring into each other in a way? I
forgot about that part. Yeah, so
that favorite teenaged beverage, brandy and coffee.
Yeah, brandy is an empty brandy bottle is put on the table, and then suddenly brandy begins to appear in the air and fill up the bottle, and then the bottles begin to multiply, and the brandy jumps from bottle to bottle, and yada yada. And this is supposed to somehow illustrate the fluidity of time.
And this is why at the end, when Joe comes in and sees his beloved Portia has been killed by somebody, I can't even remember who, if I'm being honest, the dog then comes into the room, looks at him with luminous eyes, and this is how he goes back in time and creates a new himself who gets, as I said earlier, to live forever with Portia while he makes sure that happens. She doesn't get killed and is able to slip off into the night.
Yeah, at the end of this
book... None
of
this makes any more sense than I just made it sound like.
At the end of this book, there are literally 2 Joes running around, and that's never stopped to be addressed as some kind of paradox.
Nope.
No, it's just the way time works.
Nor did the time travel that involved brandy and bottles seem to be multiplying them willy-nilly. It seemed to be more sort of specific and possibly controlled by Portia. I don't get it. But also, I don't particularly care.
Yeah, me neither. I will say this. To me, I think the gold standard of dealing with time travel happens in a movie where you would least expect it. It is Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. And I think it deals with time paradox in the best way possible when Bill and Ted are locked up in jail and Bill asks Ted to remember 3 days from now to leave the key on the windowsill inside the cell. And then they turn and the key is on the windowsill inside the cell. And to me, that's very smart. And if you can't top Bill and Ted for intelligence in your time travel novel, maybe leave time travel out of it. Just saying.
Do not at us with your theories about Avengers Endgame. Okay, thanks, bye.
All right, yeah. I actually still haven't seen that and probably never will because I've given up on even trying to understand those things. It's just a bunch of really attractive people flying around and punching each other, and then I don't know. I don't know who half the characters are, and I don't care. So, yeah, don't at me about that either.
I mean, that's pretty much why I saw it, but yeah, the time travel dimensionality things didn't bother me, but I know they bothered a lot of people, and I know that primarily the kind of people who are bothered about that are better talking to people other than me.
So let's talk about Kindle in Motion. Or
I want to be a Kindle in Motion.
Or as I like to call it,
yeah,
Kinda in Motion.
Oh!
Am I right, folks?
Oh, shit.
So, Collision, what is Kindle in Motion?
Kindle in Motion. This book can be read on any device, including Kindle e-readers. It may include art, animation, or video features that can be viewed on certain Fire tablets and the free Kindle app for iOS and Android. You can switch features on or off at any time. Learn more. Pipe. End quote.
Yeah, and if you go to their website, there's a huge sales pitch about how this is the future of a multimedia experience and yada yada. And the truth is, this is a normal book with like an animated GIF every 20 pages or so, and a randomly inverted color scheme on the first page of each chapter, which annoyed the shit out of me.
I kind of like that, actually. I bet it was annoying as hell on a paper white screen. Wow, we're really displaying more brand familiarity with the Kindle range of products that I'm comfortable with. But
check it out. Don't buy their shit.
Yeah.
But we have to talk about how stupid this idea is.
Yeah.
And there's no way to do it without naming names. So
exactly.
We're naming names.
So on the e-ink screen, I bet that looked like an eye-punching nightmare. I have the cheapo Kindle Fire tablet, and it was kind of cool for those, and I didn't hate it. I will say that I always leave it in bedside mode, so it's got this like sepia filter over everything, which does the art few favors.
But yeah, I mean, like, they really make it out to be like this is like going to be some kind of super enhanced graphic novel type experience.
Yes.
But it turns out the art's so superfluous that there's an option to turn it off, and it's still the same fucking book. It's just a novella with like vaguely moving Hardy Boys looking ass animation every few pages. That's all it is.
And every few is, I think, overstating it just the tiniest bit. So the cover has kind of a neat like tile sliding animation on it. Page 2, your title page, has a little crawling gif of Dean Koontz's signature.
That's my favorite one.
The first page, I think, has a little animation in addition to the color scheme reversal, and then there's nothing for about 25 pages. Nada.
Yeah, it's just
nothing.
An illustration. Like, I mean, I said Hardy Boys for a reason.
Yeah.
This has about the same amount of illustrations as a Hardy Boys or a Nancy Drew book, where it's like about one per every 2 chapters or something like that.
Yeah.
I was thinking about it, and I was like, man, I bet this died a death. Like, there's no way there are a ton of these books that are published.
Yeah.
There are a lot of these books that were published.
Ooh.
Mostly self-published.
Well, I mean, this just came out, right?
Yeah. But, yeah, people are doing this. And it kind of weirds me out, because I think books... I'm going to sound all stuffy here, even though I'm just talking about reading a book on an electronic device. But, like, books don't need moving pictures to hold my attention. That is called television or movies.
See, I disagree a tiny bit. I just want it done. If it twere done well. You know, let's do it Let's do it all the way. What is stopping them from sending me a book with lots of pictures? Is it that there aren't a lot of underpaid, underemployed artists out there?
File size.
Extremely no. It's not that. They should be paying those people. What is stopping them from providing me a book with some pleasing Tangerine Dream soundscapes behind everything?
That's
very fucking
That's
little.
a better idea than this.
What is stopping them from including a free marijuana cigarette with every book purchase? Publishing industry, I have one 3-letter question for you. WYD.
I was just thinking about how this is leading up, I feel like, to the inevitable moment when we finally get House of Leaves released in digital form. Until I remembered that the kind of people who would get excited for that, they want to be seen reading a giant book upside down. So probably never happened.
Oh my god! So I've not read it.
And don't get me wrong, I like House of Leaves, but I mean it's an easy target because there's a lot of very silly people who also like House of Leaves.
I didn't know that there was a hold the book upside down moment, but now I'm thinking about Garth Marenghi starting an episode. Hello, I hope you're sitting uncomfortably.
There's not just a hold the book upside down moment. There's literally like pages where the text is typeset in a spiral, so you have to turn the book as you read it.
Oh, I can read upside down, so I probably wouldn't even have to do that, bro.
See, there you go.
But I am hoping someday I see a guy on the bus and he like nervously makes eye contact with me for a couple seconds before he's like, you're probably thinking, I really don't know how to read a book because I'm holding it upside down. Well, au contraire.
No, I mean, typesetting is a big part of that book. And actually, I found it kind of interesting. But I also found it a little embarrassing to read in public, like especially the pages that would spiral in. Like, because I'd be at like a lunch counter somewhere eating lunch and like turning my book around as I'm reading it. And people are like, what's up with this guy with the weird tattoos who keeps spinning a book around? Is he opening a portal to something?
Right.
So, yeah.
Jesus. I hope you were.
I was. It was to a delicious BLT.
Nice.
I think it's about that time for us to do high points, low points. What you think?
I love it. I hope I was hoping you would open the porthole to high points and low points.
I did. And here they come.
High points are high, and low points are low. High points, low points, get ready to go.
The portal has been opened, and I'm ready to go with some high and some low. How about you?
Sure, bro.
Whoa. I'll start us off here with a high point. This was fun to read. Mm-hmm. It was stupid as hell, but it was fun to read. You know, like I mentioned earlier, Dean Koontz has explicitly done YA fiction labeled as such. Yeah. The Odd Thomas series, which is actually also quite fun to read. Koontz is good at writing young adult fiction, even if I'm not sure that's what he was aiming at this time around. Even if he was wildly off target, he wrote an entertaining young adult novel, and it was fun. It was also very dumb, but it was fun.
Yeah. I have a, more specific first high point than that, and it's about the oft maligned Kindle in Motion feature. One of the illustrations in particular I thought was great, which is Dulcie, his grandma, kind of revealing the parasite inside. And basically what this is, the moments in They Live where Rowdy Roddy puts on the magic sunglasses and it reveals the aliens to be the horrible monsters that they are.
Yeah.
And it'll reveal like a dollar bill. Look, actually just says, "This is your god now." Stuff like that. But it just happens as a quick transition. This shows her face kind of melting away and being, replaced by a hellish skeleton with a creepy crawler wrapped around the spine and going, down into her bowels. And it's pretty fucking good. And I liked it.
It reminded me a lot of Disney's The Haunted Castle ride.
I haven't had the pleasure.
Well, there's a lot of kind of optical illusions like that where there
Yeah.
are portraits of people that as you pass them, they turn into grotesqueries. And it's very similar.
That sounds extremely frightening. No, thank you.
It's not. It's very lighthearted. It's done in a silly way, for sure. It's just stuff like, he's a man. Oh, now he's a skull.
I was sort of picturing like, oh, it's goofy, and then like maggots are pouring out of his eyes and blood.
No, there are no Disney characters on the ride. Thank God. Okay.
Minnie Mouse walking toward you like the girl from The Ring coming out of the well.
Oh, that's horrifying. Oh, gosh, Minnie. I shouldn't have watched that videotape after all. Low points, but kind of actually a high point, is that Dean Koontz prose we've come to know and love.
Yes.
I have a few examples here, just brief ones. Joe admired Corvettes.
Oh, Joe.
How about this? The lovely Portia stepped past Joe and kicked the switchblade into a nearby storm drain. Now, this one takes a little more thinking, but if you're describing a woman kicking a switchblade into a nearby storm drain, what kind of adjective would you use to introduce them? Because I don't think lovely would be my first choice.
Interesting. Yeah. It sort of does seem to undercut well, she's an action hero, but she's still cute, though.
Joe liked the way that Portia stirred her drink to make the ice cream melt faster. A lot of this book is Joe liking things, by the way. I don't think we've mentioned that, but so many sentences start with Joe liked or Joe admired.
Yeah.
It's great. Yeah, Joe admired Corvettes. Joe liked the way that Portia stirred her drink. We spend a lot of time seeing what Joe likes and what Joe admires. And a lot of this is kind of written like a introduction to reading in some ways.
Oh, is that what he admires about Portia?
Yeah, for sure.
Her milkshake.
Yeah. Well, it does, in fact. I'm not even going to finish.
Do it. You know you want to. You have to.
It brings all the boys to the yard.
Damn right.
It's better than yours.
Yeah, not dissimilar from your first low point. I have to say that Dean Koontz has a magical way with first sentences, and this book is extraordinarily convenient because it comes prepackaged with 2 separate first sentences for us to read.
Oh, yeah.
So here's the actual first sentence of this text.
Welcome to the Dean Koontz Masterclass.
Yeah.
Thank you for your $19.99.
As warm as May in March, Saturday had begun on a light note, with useful work and the promise of romance, and Joe could never have imagined that in mere hours he would arrive at this darkest moment of his life. What?
What?
So here's the last sentence of the first chapter. His eyes flooded with tears as he shot her dead. Now that, were this not a Dean Koontz first draft adventure, I suggest to you would be a cracking first sentence.
Yeah, for sure.
You know? Here's the other first sentence in this, which is, like many ebooks, this comes with an exciting excerpt of his next adventure.
Ooh, there's more adventures?
Yeah. And here is the first sentence of that book. Jane Hawk woke in the cool dark and for a moment could not remember where she had gone to sleep, only that, as always, she was in a queen or king-size bed, and that her pistol lay under the pillow on which the head of a companion would have rested had she not been traveling alone.
That is a lot of information.
That is a lot of first sentence information.
I like, as always, on a queen or king-size bed. Like, I know where he's getting at. She spends a lot of time in motels, but it just sounds like she has a magical bed that changes size. Man, imagine buying sheets for that shit.
Yeah, and the Dean is a good storyteller. I don't think he's a very good prose stylist, as we're discussing, but kick off your stories just a tiny bit better for all our sakes, folks.
Yeah.
You don't have to wear all your clothes at once, especially not at the very beginning of the day.
He's wearing suspenders, a tie, and a belt. And his shirt probably has polka dots on it.
But the weird thing is he's wearing a bow tie over a normal tie.
With a bolo, but it's just unfastened.
It's like 2.5 ties. What are you doing?
So my last low point is just the character of Portia. She's a walking dude sex mockingjay. Yes. And depending on what the narrative is, she's either a peppy young college girl or suddenly Rita Hayworth in Gilda. And if you're unfamiliar with that movie, you should check it out. It's amazing. It's the inspiration for Jessica Rabbit from Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Oh.
And she says shit in this book like, "Okay, Joe, take your mental hands off my imaginary body until I give you permission to dream." That's Lana Turner dialogue.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't belong. And, like, Portia could have hit all the beat she needed without reverting to a 1950s film noir siren every other page when she needs to deliver something important. But Koontz can't seem to figure out whether he wants her to be a normal girl in her early 20s or whether he wants her to be, you know, like Simone Simon in Cat People. It's impossible to get your head around.
I haven't seen transitions this jarring between noir and high school life since the first 3 episodes of Twin Peaks.
I thought you were gonna say Brick for sure.
Oh, but the difference between Brick and the first 3 episodes of Twin Peaks is that first 3 episodes of Twin Peaks were actually good. Oh!
I'm gonna fight you for that.
I'm just kidding.
Brick is amazing.
I think Brick is quite good.
If you like mysteries and you like idiosyncratic bullshit, there is no better movie for you than Brick.
I think Brick is very good in 2019. It definitely flipped my tiny wig when I saw it in the theaters first time around.
Yeah, I saw it when it came out, so it was a life-changing experience for me. There was definitely just moments where I was like, wow, you can tell a noir story and totally, like, you know, remove it from the scene that it would normally be in, keep all of the beats, have all of the same type of characters, and have it still make sense.
Yeah.
And to me, that was just amazing. Like, I especially love the scene where he tells a woman that he's trying to get information from, you know, that she's reluctant to talk to him, and he goes, "You know where I eat lunch."
Yeah.
Referring to the different tables in the cafeteria.
It's good stuff.
Good stuff, yeah. Good movie. Not this. Anyway.
Right. So, I guess I owe you another low point, and I try not to do this that often, and I am sorry for that. But I'm going to have to read you a description, and then I'm going to talk to you about how it made me as a person feel.
Well, that is kind of the human experience, is it not?
Nobody cares about my feelings.
I do.
Thanks, buddy.
I want you to be sitting uncomfortably.
His average height and average build and pleasant face and winsome smile did not seem adequate in a confrontation with a purse snatcher who was maybe 6'1", 190 pounds, with big hands. As a just under 6'1" man, who is considerably north of the 200-pound mark, 6'1", 190 is not huge. It is not even noticeably large. I promise you, if you see me on the street, you're not, whoa, look at that refrigerator-shaped behemoth over there.
Yeah.
Check out the Mack truck up on the sidewalk. Hey, Mr. Light Rail, shouldn't you be like pulling a train? You know, like that is not particularly big. It offends me personally, and I know that it is directed at me personally.
It was.
Because another thing about me is I have, especially for a man my height, very, very small hands. And you know what that means. Small gloves.
You know what that means. Bad Donald Trump impressions incoming.
So this was maybe the first moment in the book. It's quite early. It was not the last. That maybe, you know, in Venture Brothers, when Rusty gets a little upset with one of his sons and he just is like, Dean.
Yes.
This part made me do that alone at my imaginary cat. And by the way, the name Chris Collision's Imaginary Cat Contest is still going on because, as we've discussed before, I finally realized that my name for it, Mr. Whiskersworth, is probably stolen from something. So help me rename my imaginary cat.
In this case, going Dean actually works too.
Because it's his name.
Yeah, it's his name.
Yeah,
it took like 3 clicks of the very slow gears of my mind turning over before it actually hit the buzzer. So.
If I might be permitted another Simpsons reference, please imagine Rainier Wolfcastle in front of a brick wall saying, "That's it. That's the joke."
It took a few cycles.
Sorry about that, but speaking of taking a few cycles, let's cycle back up
to
the good side.
All right, high point. Magical dog.
Magical. What kind of dog?
A golden retriever named Seeker, who commands a human army of paladins against evil via psychic link. Yes.
How many?
Have a treat, good girl.
So many yeses. The only way we could do yeses that would do justice to this is just play the Yes song from Daniel Bryant's entrances for a while.
I needed to free both hands so I could go, yes, yes, appropriately.
He's pumping his hands in unison skyward. Why? Because we got the magical German Shepherd.
And like you mentioned earlier...
And it was all fucking worth it.
Like you mentioned earlier, Dean Koontz really holds back on the magical dog. It's not until at least halfway through this that he finally brings the magical dog into things. And it's like, he's almost like, it's like he's edging you.
Wow.
Because you're like...
Holy shit.
You're like, it's Dean Koontz. Where's the magical dog? And when it finally happens, it's just like... an explosion of magical dog happiness that should be uploaded to Pornhub immediately. Anyway.
Wow.
Maybe I shouldn't talk about dogs and Pornhub in the same sentence. I apologize, everyone.
That is outstanding.
But yeah, Seeker is the brains behind the operation of trying to get rid of Parasite.
Yeah.
She's a dog with psychic powers who controls humans that are then named paladins, which is awesome.
That's
and they go out and try to kill the parasite.
Oh, and they do.
And well, most of the time they don't. I believe Ricochet Joe is the first to successfully do it out of 9.
I thought it was 7. 5 who I can't remember, but you're probably right.
The first out of a large single-digit number, which seemed a little... You could have sold that one a little harder.
So I guess this is kind of that Last Starfighter beat where, except of just being Last Starfighter, they explain like, well, we've tried this a couple dozen times before, and it doesn't go that well. Thumb across neck.
Yeah.
GIF. Yeah. It's really actually hard for me to come up with a high point that comes even close to matching that. But I think I just am going to double up on yours and read you the moment.
So now it's a double up edging
double
of
up
magical dog
double
literature.
Double up edge to climax magic dog on IDEOTV pod. Yes, you heard it here. Probably not first.
Yeah.
And if I might steal a line from a television show I try not to talk about too much, don't let grandma Google that one.
Yeah, definitely.
Into the kitchen padded a golden retriever. Although the dog came directly to Joe, he didn't realize that it was anything more than it appeared to be until he reached down to pet it. At roughly this moment, I put the book down, grabbed my phone, and texted the world via Twitter, oh my God, there's a magic dog in this one.
Yes.
And I don't think anybody actually guessed that it was Dean Koontz right off.
How can you hear the words magical dog and not think of Dean Koontz right away? I'm disappointed in a lot of you.
Swing and a miss, listeners. But it then goes on. He was overcome with a gladness unlike anything he had ever experienced. Yes, he's petting a dog.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah.
The kitchen fell away from him, and he was borne into another room, which for a moment he considered from a curious perspective. And then it goes on, and he gets in touch with his mom, yada yada. But when this finally happened, it made it all worthwhile. And I don't just mean reading this turkey. I mean the show. I mean the last couple weeks.
It does. It brings a smile to your face. Especially because it's a golden retriever,
yes.
Which, yeah, it's good pick. Good pick, Dean.
Seeker the Redeemer.
Yeah. Very, very good pick, Dean.
Isn't it always a German Shepherd, though, or a Golden Retriever?
Yeah, and I think it's because that's what Dean Koontz has in real life.
You know why? Because Dean Koontz rules.
Because Dean Koontz kind of is a Golden Retriever. He just learned how to write.
Dean, come on, IDEOTV pod.
I bet he is so friendly.
I mean, I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. I bet he likes to be scritched by me.
Oh, on that note, I think it's time to take a break. We'll be right back. Welcome back to I Don't Even Own a Television, the podcast that has bounced off more obstacles than any other show you can imagine.
Yeehaw and giddy up.
Spring, spring, spring.
We're the most Western podcast of them all, podners.
This was not...
Podners, get it? Because it's both a funny way to say partner.
I'm sure nobody's thought of that one before.
That is now trademarked, and our listeners are now our podners.
Cool. So, it's the time of the show when we do the most litigious segment in podcasting history. This is Dramatic Readings.
Dramatic readings. We're gonna make it sound important. Dramatic readings. Yeah, I got some words for you.
If you don't call yourself a podner, you're being sued.
All right. Would you like to start us off?
I would love to start us off.
Well, then why not do something dramatic for the folks at home?
Alrighty.
He's walking on a tightrope
Yeah.
and reading this at the same time.
If ever Joe considered abandoning all principles and fleeing from a challenge, this was the moment when he might have done so. But he heard in memory his grandmother's voice and took guidance from it. Whatever task you've taken, whatever fight you're facing, you must bring to it nothing less than everything you've got. Or otherwise you'll fail for sure and always wonder what might have been if only you had given your all.
Wow, thank you, Grandma Sticks.
Thinking about the 5 paladins who had failed and the 2 who had perished in the effort, he approached the cabinet into which the parasite had disappeared. Pistol in his right hand, he reached with his left to open the door. Plates, crockery, and casseroles. Shadows toward the back. He leaned in closer, wishing he had a flashlight. The clatter, knock, and rattle of brooms and mops tumbling through the flung-open door of a tall corner closet brought him to his feet with a cry of alarm. Jiminy Willikers! He thought the parasite had burst out of hiding with the spill of household cleaning items, but as he swung the pistol left and right in search of a target, he realized that it had not come into the open yet. Stealthy sounds inside an upper cabinet. Joe stepped back, gun in a 2-hand grip once more. If the creature flung open an upper door and sprang out, it would be above his head and might fall upon him and fix itself to his face. He held his breath, listening intently. Agnes Jordan made small, whimpering sounds of distress. When Joe motioned her to the back door, intending that she should clear the battlefield and leave the fight to him, she did not move, apparently paralyzed with fright. Deep silence. Silence persistent. Agnes must have heard a faint warning sound to which Joe was deaf, because she gasped and ducked defensively and moved fast to her right just as an upper cabinet door flew open. Having maneuvered itself to drop upon her head, Parasite exited the cabinet in a cascade of drinking tumblers. The thing fell to the countertop as half a dozen tall glasses rang and shattered against that granite surface, its absolute black contours crankling and shifting as splinters and shards of glass raised a glittering spray and then rained to the floor. Joe squeezed off a round from a distance of 8 feet, 6 bullets remaining in the magazine, and Parasite was flung against the backsplash by a direct hit. Anything its size, if born in this world, would have been stone dead. Still alive, the thing zigzagged away from him across the granite, a dissonance of broken glass shifting under it. He fired again, missed, fired again, 4 rounds left, and scored another hit. When the creature rebounded from the backsplash again, now all black bristle and menacing hiss, Joe could hear Portia speaking as clearly as though she had been in the room. You can kill it, though it's hardy. Adopting a new strategy, Parasite stopped fleeing, instead jittered across the L-shaped counter toward Joe. With a skill that improved with each shot, Joe tracked it, nailed it once more. 3 direct hits. Still it came, turning the corner of the L, streaking toward him across the granite, no longer moving evasively. 3 rounds less. Risk nothing less than everything. He waited until it was 4 feet to him. Until it sprang for his face, he brought the .45 higher, so that instead of sailing over the pistol, Parasite clutched the thrusting barrel for a moment, embracing the muzzle. An instant was all Joe needed to squeeze off a shot. If the slug passed through the body of the beast, he didn't hear it crack a cabinet or ricochet off of a hard surface.
Ooh, titular.
Parasite swelled, as if the overpressure of the captured bullet inflated it. Joe triggered his next-to-last round, his hope of escape fading as Parasite endured another point-blank hit. It swelled further, like some vile blowfish, and then the alien substance of it exploded backward, away from him, splattering the cabinets and the countertop, as if a ladle of infinity matter had been scooped out of the void beyond the outermost edge of the universe, where not one star shone, and had been cast here by some prankster god. Every glob and smear of that unearthly tissue spiderwebbed and crackled with a visible electric current. A thin black smoke rose from each morsel, but only briefly. With the withering of the smoke, nothing remained as evidence of invasion.
Wow. So that was a really good climactic action scene if you're scared of kitchens. Or perhaps visiting an IKEA.
I'd like...
It's scarier kitchen scene than anything in Horror Store, by the way.
Is this... Ouch. Sick Horror Store burn.
That book sucked. Anyway.
Is this the first book we've read that has the word backsplash not a one a time, but a 2 a time?
I think so.
Is this the first book we've read that really goes into detail about the marble counters and the L-shaped island in the kitchen?
Well, I mean, I know that's what I want to be thinking about when I'm reading about the dramatic last life or death standoff between, a young protagonist and a weird alien monster from another dimension. I'm very concerned about, say, what surfaces the various pieces of the kitchen are made of.
I'm a little surprised that it wasn't called out like the recently replaced cabinets shattered beneath his bullet hail.
The mahogany was everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, we've mentioned before that like Dean Koontz will tend to describe turn by turn the route people takes because he's a dad, and the lawn care that people do because he's a dad. So it doesn't shock me that he's a little interested in the old kitchen.
I bet you he was remodeling his kitchen while he wrote this book.
Ding, ding, ding. I bet this book will finance his next kitchen remodel.
Yep.
And you know what? Good for him.
All right, so it's my turn, and here we have basically Joe and Portia's first kind of semi-romantic moment. It's the two of them at the old neighborhood malt shop having a malt. Both Joe and Portia would have chased their adventure with a more fortifying beverage if they had been of drinking age. But as they were both 18, which I believe contradicts something that was said earlier in the book about Portia being in her 20s, but whatever. As they were both 18, they settled for a back booth at the malt shop, ordering a chocolate ice cream soda for her and a cherry ice cream soda for him. So nothing like that ever happened to you before, she asked. Did I look like I knew what I was doing? I wish I could say yes. The experience seemed almost like something that he had dreamed, and he was surprised it hadn't left him more badly shaken. In fact, a curious sense of well-being had settled over him the moment that the purse snatcher had run off, as if he had been given anti-anxiety medication. I must have looked crazed. Man, you were like some pinball ricocheting from flipper to buzzer to bell. Joe liked the way that Portia stirred her drink to make the ice cream melt faster. How she scooped the creamy foam off the top of the soda. How she ate it with the slightest smacking of her lips. He said, "Why on earth did you follow me through all of that? Who wants to spend Saturday stabbing litter?" "Volunteers for a better future," he said. "I didn't volunteer. I was dragooned." "Dragooned by whom?" "Who the hell says whom anymore?" "I might be a writer someday." "Oh, I hope not. You seem so nice." Joe watched her drawing the pink cherry-flavored slush through her straw. Her lips puckered precisely, and her cheeks dimpled with the suction, and her throat pulsed with each swallow. Joe was not mechanically inclined. Working on car engines and that kind of thing held no appeal for him, but he was riveted by the mechanical process of Portia consuming the cherry ice cream soda.
Yeah, settle down, Tex Avery.
Yeah. "What's wrong with writers?" he asked. "A lot of them hate the world and want to change it. Build utopia." "I don't." "Good, because utopias always turn out to be one version of hell or another." "I just want to tell good stories, or write advertising copy." "I'm dazzled by your commitment to literature. So, what was it that happened out there? Are we talking psychic phenomena? Are you some kind of mutant?" "I'm not one of the X-Men." "You're no Wolverine for sure, but you're something." "No, not me." We'll stop there.
I'm really glad you've highlighted that particular portion, a portion I've come to think of as Dean Koontz got jokes, folks.
Yeah. Also creepy.
A little bit, but I mean, I've met the odd 18-year-old boy. I was briefly an 18-year-old boy myself, and let me tell you something. A pretty girl across the table from you in that moment, if you're kind of like me at all, is an indescribably, and I genuinely mean that, do not describe it, erotic experience.
I agree with that. I also think it's very, very funny that they list... I think one of the requirements of being able to kill the parasite is that it needs to be someone who's completely innocent and pure of heart. And the reason people have failed before is because they weren't completely innocent enough. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, why not? 18-year-old boy makes perfect sense.
Well, note is his malt.
I actually got it backwards. He gets a chocolate malt. She gets a cherry malt. I read it backwards.
Dear God, so he's not a virgin.
Probably.
So probably he did not kill the parasite.
He's plain. He's had sex, but he has not had sex.
I'm so confused.
He's probably gone over the sweater a couple times, to quote the Breakfast Club, but...
but may not have gotten to what the Breakfast Club also called, and I'm so sorry for this, the hot beef injection.
Yeah, or if you're watching on edited
TBS.
Television, what is it that they say?
Hot wild affection.
That's it, yeah.
Burned into my mind because I taped it off TV and would just rewatch it obsessively.
It's what you get, Larry. It's what you get when you find a stranger in the Alps. All right, let's move on from dramatic readings to another game. Let's do a What Would They Do?
Sometimes the tensions are hard to divine, and others the clear as day. So tell me, what would they do?
Okay, so in what would they do? Normally we put ourselves in the shoes of a character of the book, but in this case we're going to take a step back past the fourth wall. We're going to put ourselves in the shoes of the people who create this stuff in its form that you consume. So if you worked for, and we've been very careful not to mention them by name, so I'm going to continue to do that here. If you worked for the publishing arm of a monolithic corporate entity run by a supervillain that's hell-bent on taking over the world, what classic novel would you give the Kindle in Motion treatment to, and why?
I hinted at this earlier, but it would be literally every single book. I see no reason at all not to invest all those resources in jazzing up the reading experience of everything. And part of this was spurred by my thinking. Every single time I tried to do anything in this book, it popped up a quick thing that was like, "Are you sure you don't want to add narration?" And by the end, I was totally broken. And I was like, I want to add narration. I want to add background music. I want to add sound effects. In fact, fuck these pictures. What if there were actual people showing me how these characters felt and saying the things the characters were saying? What if I could hold this instead of tall way up, tall way sidey, and watch them act it out? Why not? Fuck it. Every book.
I can't tell if you're serious or not, but you're scaring the hell out of me.
I've had a lot of coffee.
All right. So for me, I'm narrowing it way down. Specifically, I would go with Of Mice and Men.
Okay.
But drawn in the style of Dan Clowes.
Oh my God, I am shocked he hasn't done that. Did Chris Ware say, "Oh, I'm working on it" 15 years ago, and he's been working every day and is 3 panels in?
I think it would be hilarious if a bunch of high school kids, in English 101, got exposed to the quote-unquote classical canon with horrifyingly drawn images of Lenny accidentally murdering animals.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I'm mean and evil.
That's, TNC, B. And that, of course, is how a cool guy like me says, "That's not cool, bro."
Oh.
I'm a busy guy.
I was thinking a lot about how Lenny would look as drawn by Dan Clowes, and it's really interesting to think about.
I'd like to challenge you, Jay.
Dan Clowes, not Close. I always say that.
Which is jargon that we use at my work that means I'm telling you have to do something, but that's not the kind of organization we are. So instead I use the phrase, "I'm challenging you." I'm challenging you to draw that for our Patreon subscribers.
I'll try my hardest, but he has a pretty unique style.
It's true, but you're a pretty good drawer.
I am a pretty good drawer. My name is Simon.
Man, all the pop culture deep pulls.
Well, I love it when people say drawer. I don't know why. It gets me. I'm a decent illustrator, but I'm a pretty good drawer.
You're a pretty good drawer. And, with all the pop culture pulls, Max Fun, get at us, dogs.
Yeah, what's up? We'll do your convention.
We're right here waiting. Another fucking pop culture pull.
We know about songs.
Yeah.
We know about professional wrestling.
Yep.
What else?
I don't know about literally anything else.
Me either, really, especially not books. All right, let's continue. Let's do another game here. Let's do a What is Your Fave?
What is your fave? What is your fave? When you're presented with a list of options, what is your fave?
This one's all you.
Yep. So one of the things that Dean Koontz is outstanding at is titles. For example, the title of this book, Ricochet Joe, lets you know right away that you're about to read a Western. Also...
Shut up. Stop it.
Vamonos. All the chapters themselves also have titles. So, Jay, what is your fave chapter title, and what other piece of art in any genre would you like to use that title for yourself or see that title used for?
Okay.
So if the title of one of them were Starship Troopers, for example, you could say, "Oh, I would like that to be used for a movie that people think makes them more smart, but in fact seems to make people slightly dumber."
Okay. Got
Right.
it. I got it now.
Okay, so here are the titles. Flash Forward. An Ordinary Joe. Ice Cream and Painful Loss. Another Two-Headed Calf. Where the Waters of Time Flow. The Masquerade. Hound of the Hound. The Chief. Made Stupid by Love. What Lives Within. What Have You Done? Nothing Less Than Everything. The Puppet.
Ooh, this is a tough call.
This
is a really
good
tough call.
titles.
But I'm going to go for pure comedy here. So,
Okay.
Ice Cream and Painful Loss. Album title by a mid-90s SoCal pop-punk band.
Yeah.
Probably a Christian band. On like one of those labels that tried to sneak the Christianity under the radar.
So like Switchfoot, except more pop punky and less like bad grunge.
I was thinking more like MXPX,
Right.
running with that crowd.
Yep.
Slick Shoes, that kind of stuff. Yeah. Ice Cream and Painful Loss.
that would
'Cause
be outstanding.
Yeah, that's totally like the realm of all of those bands that were guys that were like in their early 30s singing songs about high school romance, which, there's absolutely nothing weird or creepy about that. I wonder why so many of them turned out to be creeps.
Can I say one thing about the prospect of 30-year-old guys writing about high school relationships? Ew.
Ew.
Yeah. TNC, bees.
Yeah,
and
I was about to say TCBY.
Which is where you'll catch most of those guys looking for their next hookups.
I thought you were going to say working.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with working a service job, my friend.
No, there's not.
You know what is
but
wrong?
there is if you're scoping out teen girls.
Yes, extremely. I don't really have a great one. I'll just say that I have about 400 albums that should have been called Made Stupid by Love.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's true. And what was like the king of the Kigs or something like that?
Oh, yeah, Hound of the Hound.
The Hound of the Hounds.
Amazing.
That could have been a Dio album.
I mean, that should be a Dio album. And more importantly, it should be a Dio album that is somehow a spin-off of Game of Thrones, like second most beloved character.
Yeah.
Sandor Clegane.
Let's bring Dio back from the dead just to do that.
There is no scenario in which I am not pro bringing Dio back from the dead. That we need to know this. If it ends humanity, well, we had a good run, and if I get another Dio record out of it, fantastic. I think, though, I would probably go for Where the Waters of Time Flow, and I would ask...
That's a Yes record.
I would ask my favorite Yes knockoff band from America, Starcastle, to rock that one, please.
You've been mentioning Starcastle quite a bit on this show, which makes me think I need to get on board this train.
You'll hate them. It's all I listen to anymore, though.
Do they have a lot of synthesizers that go...
Extremely yes.
I kind of like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's all they have.
Are they better or worse than Spock's beard?
Infinitely better. I find Spock's beard maybe as unlistenable as any band I've ever heard.
Okay. I'll give them a shot.
Anywho.
Let's move on. One last game. We're going to do it. We're going to Russian roulette this one, folks.
Russian roulette, Russian roulette, Russian roulette, not actually Russian.
All right, so Russian roulette, we randomly find pages from the book that we're reading, and we read them to you. Normally, we do it by flipping pages, but as mentioned, that is not possible in this format. So instead, we generated random numbers for locations of the book. I was lucky enough to end up with 802.
Oh, yeah.
So here we go. Slowly, he became aware of Agnes Jordan weeping. He lowered the heckler and Koch and went to her. He put a hand upon her shoulder, and she didn't recoil from him. He held her for a long moment. Suddenly, he wanted to see Portia, needed to see her. His need was so urgent, He understood that he had not yet been released from his role as Paladin, that a grave task awaited him. "Go home," he advised Agnes. "Wait there. Chief Montclair will come to see you. He'll explain everything. You understand?" She nodded, and off her nod, Joe turned and ran. Nice. This is after Joe has fully matured into a badass.
Yep.
You could tell because I used this voice.
I was cowering in the corner because that voice signaled to me that I was in the presence of a badass.
With a heckler and Koch,
and
which I'm probably pronouncing wrong, but whatever.
I think it's heckler and Koch, bro. Anyway, really failed Koch brothers joke there. Anywho, this is from just before Joe morphs into a badass, so I will not be doing any kind of badass voice. When he knocked on the door, she looked up and broke into a broad smile when she saw him in the porch light. The rare double when sentence.
The double when.
Come in.
When one when is not enough.
Yeah. Come in, child. He stepped into the kitchen, which was redolent of some savory treat. Cilantro, black pepper, phyllo dough, baking in the oven. He closed the door behind him. "I like surprise visits best of all," Dulcie declared as she continued to cube the block of cheese. "Whatever brings you here, sweetie?" "Oh, I was just knocking around downtown. Thought I'd go to a movie, but nothing's playing that I want to see." His voice sounded unnatural to him, as if he were reading lines. On the dinette table lay a deck of cards, a pen, and a notepad for keeping score.
No.
"Are you going to take some poor devil's money at poker?"
Well, okay. All right, sorry, continue.
"Don't I wish," Dulcie said. "But it's just Agnes coming over from next door for a little 500 rummy and gossip." Here was the sweet face that had brightened his life for 18 years. The same Dulcie under a cap of white hair, her eyes bright with intelligence and good humor and love. "Come here and give Grandma a kiss," she said. In memory, he heard Portia's voice. "When you're alone with it, don't turn your back. Don't get within arm's reach of it." As Joe took a step toward her, she said, "Oh, shoot. I forgot to check on the mini biscuits." She put down the knife with which she had been cubing cheese, snatched up a pair of potholders, then hurried to the oven and opened the door.
Suspense.
What happens next? You'll have to buy Ricochet Joe, available online.
From your friendly neighborhood monolith. What the fuck kind of poker involves a pad of paper and pens?
That would be Joe doesn't play much cards, probably because he's too busy looking at his iPhone.
And admiring Corvettes.
I think it's safe to say that Joe... I think it's safe to say Joe admires both Corvettes and Porsches.
Oh, God. You're fired.
I've been sitting on that one for a while.
Let's go to break right now. Welcome back to the podcast where I'm about to have a big old swig of this Coors Light. There's nothing more refreshing than drinking a Coors Light while I'm reading a book on my Amazon Kindle.
I like to do it where I read where I'm driving my Chevy Tahoe through the gated community in which I live.
But yeah, this is the part of the show where we recommend stuff we like, and here's a song about it. It's funky.
Not only venom and spite, Sometimes with sweetness and light, and we always end the episode by telling you about a thing we like. Recommendations.
Okay, so I'm going to go first. Right on a streaming service right now, a very popular one. There is a thing you can watch called Frankenstein's Monster, Frankenstein. And what it is...
Record scratch?
Yeah, it's a weird title. What it is it's... I think it... David... Oh, I should have written his name down. It's the guy from Stranger Things. It's the guy who plays Hap in Stranger Things. David Harbaugh, something like that?
Sigh.
He's a hunk. He's a big old stack. Note while editing, his name is David Harbour. There, saved you a tweet. But in this, he plays several roles. It's about 32 minutes long. If you like Garth Marenghi's Dark Place, you have to watch this. Because it's about a guy who's exploring his father's career as an actor via a TV play that was produced called Frankenstein's Monster, Frankenstein, in the 80s. It includes amazing lines like, and that's how I got into Juilliard. And the whole thing was actually dubbed back to VHS to give it the authentic quality of being from the 1980s.
Right.
But if you like Garth Marenghi's Dark Place, you will love this. It's funny in all the same ways, like all of the same kind of bad on purpose flubs, awkward camera movements. There's a moment where a man slams the door behind him, and then you can see it slowly open back up and realize it's like about like a half-inch thick cardboard. And it's all helmed by this wonderful actor who's really good at playing multiple roles. And that kind of works its way into the story. It becomes very meta. But yeah, it's 32 minutes long. Waste 32 minutes watching it. It's really good.
You have time.
You do.
And if you don't, that sucks, man. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
I also have recommendations, and my recommendations will take more time because I got all fired up. I don't know why. Probably because everything is awful, and I'm seeking out things that are good to hearten my soul and bolster my spirit.
Yeah.
There are two separate Toni Morrison things that were surfaced over the last week. One was a thing she wrote for the New Yorker about work. And the other was a thing that she wrote as an address that Jezebel got a copy of and is on writing in particular as work. Longtime listeners will know I, for a lot of reasons, have a particular interest in work. And these both were the kinds of things that make you think and make you feel. So there will be links to those in the show notes. Otherwise, if you Google Toni Morrison work Jezebel, Toni Morrison work New Yorker, they will probably pop up. But those are only two of the things that I am going to recommend.
Whoa.
If Ricochet Joe floated your boat, then you might like a little documentary film that came out in roughly 1986, I believe, called They Live.
Oh.
One of my favorite movies, one of the most influential political and artistic texts on me personally. So yeah, give that a little rent. And the other thing that is very, very worthwhile, if you like hyper-wordy music about other music, hyper-wordy music about politics, hyper-wordy music about just about anything, but with an infectious classic rock style of instrumentation, please allow me to recommend a band called The Paranoid Style and their fairly new record, A Goddamned Impossible Way of Life.
Oh, thank God. I thought you were about to recommend the Hold Steady.
This is sort of the Hold Steady, but female-fronted and good.
Ah, okay.
And so A Goddamned Impossible Way of Life is a phrase used by Levon Helm of the band in a documentary, and he's describing touring. And, you know...
That should be mentioned. This is the band as capital T, capital B, not
correct.
The band that we are currently discussing.
Yes, also correct. There is a song I like a lot that I linked in the Facebook group that we'll talk about in just a second. that is sort of involves Alan Greenspan and Ayn Rand and Rand Paul and Paul Ryan, and that's very interesting. There's a song called "The Curious Case of the Human Song Generators" that is about being a big fan of They Might Be Giants.
Ooh.
So it's that kind of band. I think they're great. I bought their record. I recommend that you at least listen to it. And then if you like, you should fucking buy it because they're doing good work and that good work deserves to be supported. So The Paranoid Style, a goddamned impossible way of life.
If you really like a record, stop fucking streaming it and pay for it. Mm-hmm. Seriously. Because I say this as a musician with music on streaming services.
Yep.
We get fucked. And you could be like, hey, I support this artist. I listen to them all the time. But if you really want to show your support, go to Bandcamp or go to wherever they're selling their physical medium and buy it. Because otherwise you're literally giving them like a fraction of a cent every time you listen to a song.
Every time you mash that play button. So instead of mashing that play button, hey, why not go to Bandcamp and mash that pay button?
Yeah, seriously. Let's take the L out of play.
What?
I did it, folks. I did it.
God damn. Took us 4 weeks to prepare that bit.
So sometimes people listen this far into the show and they're like, these guys aren't morons.
Wow, these guys are really running out of steam.
And then they send us things. So here's a song.
A, letter B, letter C, letter D, letter E, letter M, letter G, letter, got a lot of letters.
All right, I want to keep this short, so I was going to do 3 letters. I'm going to bump the 2 of the 3 to the next episode and read only 1. And this is from David, fake last name, and it is entitled Method Man. Maybe this is a stupid question, but did either of you, probably Doc, ever say IDEOTV pod is in the fashion of METHOD man?
IDEOTV pod. I've probably done it at some point.
I'm pretty sure I've done it too. Let me finish the letter. Because it's been kind of stuck in my head for a real long time. Okay, thanks for the show, Dave. I'm pretty sure we've both done it. Do I know what episodes? No, I don't.
I am a microphone checker, swinging sword wrecker, better warrior kid, supreme neck protector. So look out.
Right, and I'm the old dirty white guy because there is no father to my style. So, if you want to protect ya neck, you can do so by writing us at I don't even own a television @gmail.com.
And if you really want bonus points, my favorite Wu-Tang member was always Inspected Deck, so that's the go-to right there.
Okay.
Maybe smoke it on the mic like Smoking Joe Frazier, or if you really want to hit me with some fucking impress me with your knowledge.
Yeah.
Quote some of his feature spots from other people's records, because that's when Deck was at his best.
Okay.
You'll know what they are when you hear them.
Right. Okay, that's a fair point. It's now a good time to confess that, like, in addition to my notorious face blindness, I have what I can only call rap voice blindness. Where, like, I had bought... that's not true. I had downloaded, because it was a free download, and listened to, I don't know how many times, the Run the Jewels album, before I finally twigged to the fact that there's 2 different guys talking on it.
Wow.
I'm extremely bad at listening to the
LP
hip-hop.
And Killer Mike mixed up?
Only for, like, 8 months? Ish.
Dude, we're going to have to do some company flow therapy after this.
I have tried to listen to the record, whose name I'm spacing, but who's...
Fun Crusher Plus.
Yes, I've tried to listen to Fun Crusher Plus with enjoyment, no fewer than 4 times, and just never really gotten anywhere with it.
It's very, very much rap for rappers.
Yeah, and I don't want to blow any minds. Like, so if you're what's probably 85 minutes into this episode, I think I'm in a safe space when I say I'm not a rapper.
Yeah.
What I spit, it's not hot fire.
It's purposefully alienating in the way that a lot of 80s or early 90s indie rock was.
Yeah.
And for the same reasons.
Right.
So that's totally okay.
But also, like, I have listened to, Enter the 36 Chambers, I don't know how many times. Starting around 1999, like most cool guys did, late to everything. And I have no idea who's talking at any given time unless they say their own name, at which point I know who's talking for the duration of exactly that line, and then it exits my mind.
It's also difficult because they all have like 8 different names they refer to themselves by.
And I'm bad at listening.
Yeah.
I can kind of tell...
ODB, yeah.
Yeah, like I'm not literally the worst person alive.
And Method Man is the one who sounds like he's going in between every line.
And Ghostface Killer.
He's more whiny. Hey, yo, Ghostface, Purple Velour. Like that kind of...
I don't. You said and
he
I'm
talks
sorry,
about
I don't.
food a lot and, like, fancy clothes.
See, this
calls
is-
himself Pretty Toad.
So if you have a set of flashcards that will help me...
Ooh, dude. Oh, stop right there. We just made $1 million idea. Copyright right now,
Yep.
2019.
We've-
Wu-Tang flashcards.
We've put this episode in an envelope and mailed it to ourselves.
Poor You God, it only gets half of one flashcard. You God and Capadonna have to share a flashcard. We're going to get mail for that, too, because Capadonna, I don't get it, but people are like,
Friend of the show.
He was one of the best. Yeah, friend of the show, Capadonna, definitely.
3-time guest.
Yeah, Killadon, he's on all
Actually
the time.
has been a guest on our show more than any other person. Not everybody knows that.
Yeah, it's true.
Anyway, thank you so much for listening. Write us letters if you want. Follow us on Patreon if you'd like more of this every single month, which seems likely to me at this point. That's patreon.com/IDEOTV pod. You'll get a bonus episode every single month for the low price of $5 per month. Plus other stuff. When you join, you get instant and immediate access to everything we've pushed out there. There's also lots of other rewards that you can play around with, but let's be clear. The money is that you get more of us talking to you every single month.
Leaving scientists mentally scarred. Triple extra large, wild like rock stars who smash guitars.
What?
Anyway, yeah, thank you so much for listening. Till next time, please remember...
Bounce off the crab?
I don't know, yeah. Ricochet off a crab a bunch. Make sure to hit it in the glowings point, or you're never going to beat the boss.
Pew, 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 pew.
Okay, later.
Thanks, guys. We love you.
This is I Don't Even Own a Television. I bit the tip of my tongue a couple days ago, so I've been having problems with those consecutive sibilants.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I rewatched Pop Star Never Stopping last week, and he does an entire song called Spain, where he just replaces the S's in every word with the, and then goes the at the end. And when he intros it, he's like, I was in España and I just noticed that they talk like this, so I wrote a song about it. And he does it completely without, like, completely deadpan. It's like Andy Samberg's best performance ever. Anyway,